Okay. Good morning, everybody. All right, thank you very much for having me for Sister Rosh Kollel. You did Nafsha Gun with Mayor. And without further ado, because I understand everyone's hungry, so we will proceed with haste. The women are part from Mitzvah Seisha Man Grama, and Chazal, when instituting also their mitzvahs d'Rabbanan, followed that pattern, and women ought to be part from mitzvahs d'Rabbanan, Shasei Groma. But there are exceptions because Afhein Hoyu Bosanes, and there are three members of Rishua ben Levi. In there's Noshim Chayos Ba'arba Kosas, maybe Afshen Bosanes, Noshim Chayos B'ner Chanukah, because of Afhein Bosanes, Noshim Chayos B'Mikra Megillah, Shafin Hoyu Ba'osohanes. So Tosfos in Megillah, on Daf Daled. So the so he deals with the following: Dibra Masu Nashchaz Mikra Megillah, Mikamash Nashim Motzia Sachem Dei Chavasim Lo Kavar Lishmo Mikra Megillah, Chayv Mikra Megillah. Sounds just like their chiyuv would be identical to that of a male. So he brings that the Balachs Gedolos founded Tosefta. The kosher do Tosefta Tani Behedja. The tumtum ein motzi lo es mino v'lo et she'eno mino. So tumtum, that's we don't know his gender. That's like everybody today, right? So right. So you don't know his gender, and so he can't be motzi anybody because you don't know what this one might be. It's gender unknown, so you don't know if he's being motzi, if he's a man being motzi a woman, or he's a woman being motzi a man. Androgynous motzi mino and motzi Hashem. Now the androgynous has both genders, whatever. Also highly common in this day and age, and he could be motzi only a fellow androgynous, not someone that's not a male, and seemingly, not a male, and that's what I say. Pshita de lo adifa isha androgynous. Now, just for lack of you'll forgive me if it doesn't sound politically correct. Translate Tosfos literally, an androgynous cannot be worse than a woman. We're talking about as far as their chiyuv in Aseh Shazman Grama. Like, what's worse could it be? Right? It's so he say can only be motzi mino, and that's a chiddush because we hold that an androgynous is whatever it is. So it can be motzi is androgynous, and koshke can be motzi a woman, but not motzi a man. Right? Not motzi a man. And the worst that an androgynous could be is a woman. He might be a man, and he still can't be motzi a man in Mikra Megillah. So heavy Omer, and it must be that Kal V'chomer, a woman can't be motzi a man in Mikra Megillah according to this Tosefta. If an androgynous can't, a woman can't. Right? And therefore, Paskwa Halachas Gedolos, the Isha Motzia Mina Avolo Anoshim. A woman can only read a Megillah for other women and not for men. Right? So יש עוד זו כדאי צריך לא יוקרס אפילו לא הוציא אנוש כמה שלחיים דה כולכם בשמיע עבור אנושיים. So to understand of what the Gemara and Erechin meant, that hakol chayovin doesn't mean hakol chayovin equally, but we might have thought that a woman can only be yotzei mikra megillah of mikra megillah, or rather shmias megillah, if she heard from a man. No, come on, a woman could be motzi one, but a woman could take care of a woman. A woman cannot be motzi a man in mikra megillah. And we in halacha we're choshesh for this halachas gedolos, right? That indeed, if a man is reading Megillah for women only, according to Ramah, right? And or he was yotze already. There's no other men being yotze. You don't make the bracha al mikra Megillah. You only make the bracha lishmoa mikra Megillah. Because Allah surmised that they're not chayiv the same way men are chayiv. And so if they're not chayiv in mikra, they're only chayiv to hear the Megillah, but the reading of a woman is a good enough Megillah to hear. She doesn't have to dafka her shmias Megillah is not dafka from a male. She could hear the Megillah from a woman. Right? But a man cannot be yotzei hearing the Megillah from a woman, because a man is chayiv in mikra Megillah, they're only chayiv in shmias Megillah. So the question I want to deal with is, what would be the halacha by Ner Chanukah? According to Halachas Gedolos, right? Will we say by Ner Chanukah, that Ner Ishu base? Of course, the whole family is Yotze with one Ner, right? Can the woman of the household light because the Chayiv Ner Chanukah be din Afin Hoy Bos Nes, and be Motzi all the men in the household, right? If they're all one bias. Right? That is the question I want to raise. Now, the Aruch HaShulchan in Tofrei Pei Tes, Sif Hey, he assumes a Dover Poshet. In his words, it must be that the Balachas Gedolos felt, in light of this Tosefta, that Afin Hoy Boses, does not take off the ptur of Asay Shazman Groma to make a woman equally chayav as a man. Right? So he says, and he speculates, that just like that by Megillah, it's only mechayev her to hear the Megillah, but she doesn't have to do kriyas on Megillah. Right? So also by Ner Chanukah, she'd only be chayiv in re'iyas Ner Chanukah. Right? Not chayiv in hadlokas Ner Chanukah. That's what he assumes. Right? Now, it is very clear to me that the Halachas Gedolos was not benimtza in the days of the Aruch HaShulchan, but I just have to even critique the speculation, because if you know where the member of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is regarding Ner Chanukah, it's in the middle of the sugya of hadloka oisa mitzvah. And the words of the Gemara were Isha Vadai Madlika. They brings the bed for Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, because Nosher Chayos ben Archaka, Afino Be'osanes. It's in the sugya of Hadloka Osa Mitzvah. What should we have a whole different case? Isha Vadai Ena Madlika, right? Afino Be'osanes. But the truth is, I told Rabbi Price, that people should look up the Halachas Gedolos. It's not always commonly available, but take my word for it. In Hilchos Megillah, he brings this Tosefta, as Tosefta quotes him, and says women are only chayiv in Shmiyas HaMegillah. They're not chayiv in Kriyas HaMegillah, but by Ner Chanukah, he copies down the Gemara verbatim as we have it, Isha Vadai Madlika. So the question comes up now. So we resolved the question. No, a woman could light, even according to Halachas Gedolos, a woman could light the Ner Chanukah for the whole household. Right? But the question, what's the chiluk? What is the chiluk between Ner Chanukah and Mikra Megillah? Why the difference? So I was thinking like this. There is a common thread between these three members of Rishon ben Levi. Right? He said it dafka. Let's look at the cases in question. Arba cases, right? Ner Chanukah, Mikra Megillah. What's a common denominator between these three mitzvahs? No kidding. Right? Yeah. And in addition to that, what? Persume Nisa. They're all midin Persume Nisa. So you ask, Arba Kosas Persume Nisa? Yeah. What?
I'm thinking the two basic mahalchim, right? Arba Kosas, either La'abra Lechers Geula or the simply part of the Birchas HaKos on the designated mitzvah halayla. Okay. You're bringing me Rishon. I'm going to bring you a Gemara. I'm going to bring you a Gemara. Maybe the Lechers Geula, it's to mefarseim the Geula rather than just symbolic. Yeah. So let me read you a Gemara. So the halacha is that from the first mission Arba. So we all do that in summer camp, Arba Pesachim, right? So right. We get past the first mission at least. That your Arba Kos, you will have your chayiv in Arba Kos afilu min atamchui. If you're like dirt poor, you eat in soup kitchens, you got to go, and you got to come up with Arba Kosas. So says the Gemara of afilu min atamchui pshita. Well, you're not parted from mitzvahs just because you're very poor. Lo nitzcha el afilu Rabbi Akiva, the Omar asay Shabbat chachol val titztarech labrios. Hacha mishum persume nisa moidi. Right? The din that afilu min atamchui, you got to come up with Arba Kosas, is a din persume because of persume nisa, which everyone knows the halach also by Ner Chanukah. You got to sell because that's a chumrah of persume nisa. Zombies. Something very geschmack, just when you realize that Arba Kosas is Mishum Persume Nisa, the hemshech of the words of the Rambam, and Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah, which is very geschmack. It's over there in Perek Zayin. How does he lead into the dinim of Arba Kosas? B'chol dar v'dor chayav dam laharos es atzmo. Kiluhu ba'atzmo yotza ata b'shuv mitzrayim shav v'ason hotzi misham. Right, you have to display yourself. That was his nusach in Chazal. You have to display yourself as if you left Mitzrayim. You have to project freedom. Right? That is that you have to view it as if you were. Right? Even though the Torah is speaking to someone who lived generations later. Lefikach, says the Rambam. And therefore, because of laharos esatzmo, kishesoid balayla azet tzorch lechov lishtos u'meisev derech cheros, v'chol echad ve'echad bein anoshim chayav lishtos v'ezeh arba kol shayin. Right? So it's midin laharos esatzmo, right? You have to project, that you're a free man. Persumei nisa. Right? So therefore, as you project that by being mesiv derech and not having less than arba kosas shoyayin. So I'm going to posit a very simple, what I think is a very simple, straightforward svara. Right? That the Indian of afinoyu b'osanes is not mechay according to the Baal Chazos. It's just mechay of the women in these particular dinim, not in all the dinim of that Yom Tov. Like, for instance, prove to me a woman's chayiv in mishloach monos. I could just tell you that the Pre-Chodesh in Tafrei Tzadi Gimel says woman doesn't have to give mishloach monos because state ish l'reu. That's what he says, right? Now I don't know. I would tend to agree. Huchsa kavasei avalo mita'amei. Right? Avinu Boses is not a mechayiv in all the mitzvahs of the Chag, of what the Rabbanon were metaking because of our Yeshuas that we were zocher to. It's only mechayiv in the din persumei nisa. There wasn't mechayiv in all the mitzvahs of the Chag. I'll see all the regular mitzvahs of the Chag, the additional mitzvahs, additional halachas. It blibes a mitzvah seishas man grama that women are potter from. But it's because af hein hoyu ba'oso anes, so they have to do persumei nisa. It's a very simple svara. You have to show a car stuff. Af hein ba'oso anes, you do persumei nisa, but it's only mechayiv in the din of persumei nisa. Right, not in all the other, and the Gemara started to be taken literally. Ner Chanukah, and so, I mean, not hollow, right? They're chayiv in Ner Chanukah, right? They're not chayiv in the hollow of Chanukah, right? Ner Chanukah, Purim, just Megillah, and we're going to break that down in a second, all right? And by Pesach, they only were chayiv in the din rabban of Dalit Koises. They're chayiv in matzah to midoraisa because of the hekesh to Baotho Chametz, right? So now, listen to the lashon of the Gemara in Megillah Daf Yud Ches. So the Gemara, says the Gemara is going on the Mishnah. Halo sheshama ashuris yotza. Right, you could hear the Megillah in any language if you speak that language, you understand that language. But halo sheshama ashuris yotza. Right, but if you hear it, you don't speak Hebrew. Right, but you heard it the way it's written, you're yaitza, right? Even though you don't understand Hebrew. So the Gemara asks, "Va'lo yada ma'ika amri," right? So the Gemara he doesn't understand. So midav and noshim amaretz, right? Well, however it works for noshim and amaretz, whatever it is, the Gemara is docha that and says, don't tell me this episode that you do the best you can. It's like noshim and amaretz. That's not the case, because us, maskif l'ravina, atu anan hachshoni ben rochem yadinan. Right, we also don't understand. There's like some words in Megillah that were written in these strange Persian terms, hachshoni bnei ramachim. We get the general gist, right? But we don't know. We also don't know what every word of the Megillah means. So obviously, it is not true that you have to understand every word of the Megillah. So this is what the Gemara says: Ela mitzvahs kriya u'persumei nisa, hachinami kriya u'persumei nisa. So Rashi explains, that persumei nisa, right? That afu pishen yodim mashashom shoim esashom v'orim maya kriya azov ve'chaya nesim odim lem. So you get someone to explain to you the basic message, the basic story. Right. So now we really should have raised this question, right? So the Bahag found a stira, between the Gemara and the Tosefta, right? The Tosefta by androgynous, right? and the Gemara, which seems to say a woman is just as chayiv as men, right? And this is all by Mikra Megillah, and he's, we got a problem. So we got to make a compromise. They don't have to do Kriyas HaMegillah, they only have to do Shmiyas HaMegillah. Where did he get that from? Oh, you got a kasha, right? So we'll make a compromise. There has to be a makor for this idea that women are chayiv, that there's episodes, there's a chafza called Shmiyas HaMegillah, separate from Kriyas HaMegillah. Where did he get it from? Right? This Gemara. The Gemara is saying it's tzvei dinim. Zakriya u persumei nisa. Now, persumei nisa is shmiyah. Right? What you pick up at the time of the Kriya, at that event when the Megillah is written, you have to, absorb the message of what happened. Right? It's Kriya u persumei nisa. I am positing, and I don't think it's rachok, this is the din shmiyah of the Bahag, and would fit kamin chaymer. Women are only chayiv in the persumei nisa dekadin, right? Of whatever Chazal were metakin. So by Megillah, the persumei nisa is the shmiyah, right? The kriya is like a separate din, right? It's all one big mitzvah, but of the halacha of kriya that men are chayiv, women aren't chayiv, but they are chayiv in shmiyas Megillah because the shmiyas Megillah is persumei nisa. And this would fit consistently with what we're saying. Afenu Bosanes is only mechayiv in a dinner persumei nisa. But now let's analyze this by Ner Chanukah, right? Ner Chanukah. So I want to read you, just for the purpose of contrast, a Gemara and a Rashi on Daf Hey and Megillah. The din of Rav, Megillah, who we paskin like, Amar Rav Megillah bizmana kornosa afilu biyachid, shelo bizmana be'asara. Right? The Megillah on Yudalid, right? You could read it, you could lock yourself in a room, and you could read the Megillah, and that's okay, right? It's not nice, but it's you'll be yotze, right? But shelo bizmana, like the Kfarim, we're talking about when the Kfarim are Magdimin, the Yom HaKnisa, right? You need a minyan, right? Rav Asi holds ben bismana ben shlo bismana ba'asara. No, because should do it. Barovam. So I want to read you just the lashon of Rashi. So on this day that kornosa afilu biyachid, which is the way we paskin, by the way, hakol korimbo, because on this day everyone's reading v'ika pirsumanes, and there is pirsumanes. That's what v'ika pirsumanes, right? Because everyone's reading, there will be the Ika Persumei Nisa. What does Rashi mean? It means everyone, somebody's doing it b'minyan. What? No, so we'll get back to that in a second. But my point is that, the word gets out. Persum Nisa is attained because everyone's doing it on this day. But what is each and every one doing? Rashi's not saying because someone's doing it b'minyan. No. Everyone's reading this day. So the word gets out. But the maisa of getting the word out is take care of yourself. You make sure to hear the nes. What you do to get the word out, you hear the nes. You take care of yourself. He's also going to take care of himself on this day, and he's also going to take care of himself on the day. So, ika persum nes. Of course, persum means publicized, right? But in how you go about it is that you make sure to do your part, that you hear the nes. There's no din to project the nes to someone else, right? So what happens on the day everyone's reading, the word does get around because everyone's going to read it. So ika persum nes, because everyone heard it. But the kfarim that are magdim Yom HaKnisa, it won't add up to. You may not have a critical mass that it was called that persum nes was attained. But the maisa of persumei nisa that we have to do by Purim is that you take care of yourself and you go hear the nes. It's not a din for me to tell someone else the nes happened. You go and you absorb the message. But so if everyone's doing it, ika persumei nes. Now, it's not mukhrach that Rav Asi, who says even bismana you need a minyan, argues on this, because I don't believe that Rav Asi is saying, no, the din of Persumei Nisa by Purim is to be, I should tell others, and everyone's making the Shliach Tzibur their Shliach to tell others. I don't believe that for a second, right? What I believe is that the Kli that's going to absorb the Nes should be a Tzibur. But it's still the Maisa Persume Nisa go hear it. You want to say something?
But near Chanukah, there's a Shasakana. You live by yourself, or someone
Right.
goes up 2 o'clock in the morning. It's Machlekes Magen Avraham Chevin Moshe. If just the Maisa luck itself is Persume Nisa, even if no one else is involved, it's
Yeah.
you for
No,
yourself.
but very good. No.
But for him, it's not a din. I think it's not a din like Shmei Kaina when I'm listening to him read.
No, yes.
You're not limited to Havlach of Shmei Kaina because.
No. It's of course Shomer Kaona because you have to. Megillah has to be mitoch haktav. It has to be mitoch haktav, and Shomer Kaona gives you the benefit as if you're saying it the way he's saying it, mitoch haktav. Of course, there's Shomer Kaona, but he's not my. I don't believe he's my shliach in doing persume the din persume nisa. I do my own persume nisa by hearing the nays, right? And that's. I have to understand what's going on, and that's how I contribute that collectively everyone goes to hear the nays, the message gets out. But the Meiser person is to absorb it. You hear it. So now, if Bismana, everyone's doing it, right? Problem is, being a Kforim, you may not have a critical mass of people to ever hear the story. That's why I make a minion. But it's only because it has to add up to that the nays is Meforsam. But what each and everyone has to do in that effort is go hear it himself.
So who does have the mitzvah of Kriyas Megillah?
Men. And that's with all the toxic masculinity.
They said they only have to hear it.
No. The Persume Nisa, the din Persume Nisa that there is by Purim is Shmiya. But there's another din of Kriya. So Gemara says 2 dinim, Kriya or Persume Nisa. The Bahag said women are only chayiv in Shmiya because of that conflict he found with the Tosefta. Where do you get this din of Shmiya from? And how do you divide it in half? Because there's 2 dinners, Kriya, Persume Nisa, and the dinim, the member of Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Alfred says, the common denominator between all of them is the din of Persume Nisa. Right?
Without it, that's a Kriyah. You do have to make it a Kriyah.
What? Yeah. It's not Shlomo. It's Shomer Kaona, and with Shomer Kaona you get the benefit. So, but all I say is I don't believe that it's because of Shomer Kaona that I'm Yotze Persume Nisa. I'm doing my own Persume Nisa by hearing it, because that's what the Gemara said. You have to at least understand what happened. That much you have to understand. See, if you don't understand every word of the Megillah, that's okay. Hear it and just chop what happened, and that's called the Gemara called it Persume Nisa. The Baal calls it Shmiya. That's what you have to understand.
How does Shemer Kaona help if I don't have a clap?
No, all Shomer Kaona, that's one of the benefits. It's really something to be very thankful for, right? That the Shomer Kaona, you get you are saying it the way he's doing it. Because by Kiddush, you don't say Shomer Kaona. Kiddush has to be ala kos. You don't have the kos. You get all the benefits of, you said it the way he is saying it. So if he has a kos, it's as if you have a kos. If he has a klaf, it's as if you have a klaf. That's it's one of the benefits. It's a great thing. Okay, so but the nace of Chanukah is cholok beikar yisod dino. The din of Chanukah is to project outwards, right? You can't put your ner Chanukah l'malam esrim, right? Because lo sholta ba'ena, people got to see it. You got to put it be Pesach Beisal mi bachutz. You got to put it in the chalon, right? So of course it was raised, that shas sakona, so shas sakona, chazal, it's like a whole different mitzvah. You just put al shulchan v'dayo, right? But we're not talking about shas sakona, right? The ikar persume nisa is, in the words of the Ram in Hilchos Chanukah, laharos ulegalos, to project it, right? It's similar to the mitzvah of laros es atzmo kil yatzim mitzrayim, project freedom, and you project freedom by drinking arba kaisus. By ner Chanukah, the din is also to project the nace outwards.
And
right?
what about the person who's in the shuk who makes a mitzvah to see the menorah? I brought them to see the menorah. How do we understand that as a kima pursuing nisa?
The Brichas HaRe'iyah is a consolation prize. Tosfos says this. For the homeless, people who can't light Ner Chanukah, they gave them the Brichas HaRe'iyah. Right? It's a consolation prize for those who can't light or have, according to some Rishonim, like Tosfos, the Rashba, what is it? According to Rashi, it says im lo hidlik adayin. Right? If you didn't light yet, you could make. Don't know. Right? Can't tell you exactly. Right? But but he who is chayiv to light ner Chanukah, it has to be done in an oifen that the nace is meforsam. He has to put it by the chalon. It's put it pesach bezachutz. Can't be lo malo me'esrim. So the din of persume nisa by Chanukah is lahedja different than the Persumei Nisa by Purim. By Chanukah you have to project outwards, and you can't just do it your way. You got to do it ayidei the ner. The ner is the nusach of Persumei Nisa. You have to project outwards. By Purim, right? By Megillah, the Persumei Nisa is to absorb the message of the nes. Right? So it comes out like this. It's very good. So by Ner Chanukah, the chiv of the woman and the man is the same. So that's why Isha Vaday Madlika, according to the Bahag, right? Because it's there's only Mechayim Persumei Nisa, but the Persumei Nisa by Ner Chanukah is Ner Chanukah. So her chiv comes up identical, so she could light the house, the Ner Chanukah for the whole household, no problem whatsoever, right? But by Purim, because the mitzvah is the Shmiyah and not the Kriya, the Persumei Nisa, is the Shmiyah and not the Kriya. Right, the Kriya is just a Hechi Timtza. Right, so over there, her Chiyuv is not identical to that of the man, because the man has an additional din of Kriya, which she doesn't. Right, so now what just left to explain is why Chazal would do a thing like this. Just a machshava, just right, a machshava as to why why by Chanukah they made it a din, to project outwards, right, and by Purim, you hear. You contribute to the Persumei Nisa by you making sure you get the message, right? And that it adds up. Persumei Nisa. Excuse me?
Pesach also, even though the Rambam says Lahara, it's clearly you're saying the places you do it on your own.
Yeah, because it's just the din of how to be noheg. You have to view yourself. Yeah, that's right. You don't have to, like if someone didn't see you drink, get someone to come again, so watch you drink. No, it's a din of how to conduct yourself. Right. Right. So I was just thinking that Chazal metakim Persumei Nisa in a perfect parallel to the nature of the nes. There's a very big difference between the nes of Purim, right, and the nes of Hanukkah, right? The nes of Purim, right? There's what they call plausible deniability, right? It was all a big coincidence, He happened to have been married to a Jewish woman, and she swayed his heart. The whole thing looks like a coincidence. It was no gilui klape chutz, right? It wasn't apparent. It wasn't made apparent, right? The goyim could deny that there was a nes here, right? For the Yidden, it's also an avoda to hear that there was tremendous hashgacha pratis over here, right? And externally, nothing changed. What is the reason we don't say Hallel on Purim? Akati avdei dachashverosh anan, right? So we understand, we chap that it's a nes, and that's the avodah. You hear, and it's much proportionate. It's not apparent for all to see, right? Am Yisrael understands there was a nes here, right? But we daher that there was a nes. We hear that there was a nes here. Right, the nes is still very much behester, like the Megillah that we read. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name is not mentioned once, so it's all behester. And parallel to that the nes is very, very covered over, right? And it wasn't nigle lachutz, right? And our geopolitical situation was akati avdei dachashverosh anon. So that you go make sure you hear and you understand there was a nes here. But by Hanukkah we kicked Greek butt, right? And Shem Gadol b'Kadosh ba'olamecha, like we say in our Nisim. It was Nigla where we pushed them out, and the Beis Hamikdash where the Shechina is Nigla. Purim was a nes in Chutzlar, it's an Omek Kagolos. In the Beis Hamikdash where the Shechina is Nigla, we had the nes Nigla of the Neros Chanukah. It was a Shem Gadol b'Kadosh ba'olamecha. So Mishkal Zeh, they were metaking that the mitzvahs made laharos ulagalos klape chutz because the gil was klape chutz. Thank you very much.
Yeah.